Hello, everyone. This is Rick with the Cyber Pro podcast. Industry leaders share their insights. It's about 5 questions in 9 minutes because hackers never sleep. So let's get to it. Jeremy, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, my name's Jeremy Snyder. I'm the founder and CEO of Firetail. You can find us online at firetail.io. We are an API security company. We make software to help keep APIs safe.
Awesome. And I know a lot of people are going to ask the question, and a lot of people know the answer, but what is an API?
Yeah, an API is an application programming interface. The simplest way that I like to think about it is that it's ways for two pieces of software to talk to each other and either interchange data or, system A is requesting system B to perform a function on its behalf. That's the way to think about what an API is. And I think if you think about where we are in kind of the modern technology landscape, every time you open your phone to order mobile food delivery, you are kicking off a transaction over an API from your phone to the cloud, and then that provider is kicking off a further 10 to 30 API interactions for payment processing, coordinating the order, a delivery driver, all of that. And that's really kind of how the modern web works.
Thank you for that. I think that was super succinct and super insightful. Why do you love being a cyber and technology professional?
Yeah, it's a been a path for me. I actually started as a practitioner for the first 13 years of my career. And at the time, I very much felt like there were days when the job was super thankless. You carried a pager, you were on call very often. I did the 2 a.m. drives to the data center multiple times. And there was a lot of me that said, this is not necessarily where I want to spend my career. But I'll be honest with you, it was actually the pandemic that really changed my focus around this. I realized just how many critical transactions were happening online. And more than anything, we saw the impact that our software was having on a couple of organizations that were using this as a previous company, but they were using our software to allow them to do research around COVID and ultimately develop solutions that helped us all get out of the pandemic. And I saw the value that that could provide in terms of enabling all kinds of innovation around the world. And I realized that that was really the best use of the skills and the expertise that I had acquired in my career up to that point. And that's why I've stayed with it.
That's awesome. When you hear cybersecurity as a top concern, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Look, I think there's a couple of things that really come to my mind around that. One is that very often we, from let's say the company or the customer perspective, we can only defend what we know about and what we think about. And a lot of the times we're a little bit limited in our views and let's say our creativity when it comes to implementing security strategies. And so I know that leads to a lot of concern. It's that constant worry that, I've done this and I've done that, and I've maybe gone down a checklist of securing against the risks that I know about, but what else is out there that I don't know about? So that's one of the concerns that really comes to mind. Another one is, do I have the people and do I have the resources available for 24/7 coverage? Let's be honest, our businesses are online all the time now. Whether it's our email server, whether it's our internal wiki, there is always intellectual property and confidential data that all of our organizations have that is online. And so I know there's a lot of concerns around just kind of resourcing, staffing, coverage, et cetera. That's one of the things. And then the last thing I'll say is kind of going back to that pandemic timeframe that we think about, early 2020 and into 2021, so much shifted online that a lot of organizations that historically would not have been targets for bad actors all of a sudden became targets. And honestly, they're the low-hanging fruit. You think about community colleges, local school districts, a local healthcare provider who all of a sudden has digital records because they're doing virtual visits and all this kind of stuff. They don't have a cybersecurity program. So I know for them, they digitized very, very rapidly without necessarily having controls or people in place to take care of this. So all those factors together are why I think it's really a top concern. It's just so easy for bad actors. I like to say, hackers have automation too. And that's something we have to worry about and really defend against.
And they have time, right? They can take as much time as they need. So that's great.
Yeah.
What insight do you want to share with our community of cyber professionals?
Yeah, I'd go back to what I was talking about with APIs in particular. It's really kind of eye-opening. When I started exploring the space a little while back, you come across these statistics, and some of the times you think like, that can't be right. For instance, 83% of all internet traffic at the time that the stat was done, which is a little dated, so it's probably higher by now. But 83% of all internet traffic is API calls. So it's not you or me or, anybody in your household who's Googling something or pulling up their email or whatever. It's, again, systems talking to systems. And then when you start to kind of explore that in more detail and go back to that mobile food delivery order example that I gave, you realize your credit card was sent over an API. Your home address was sent over an API. So the sensitive nature of the data being sent over APIs, being shared between third parties, and how much is at risk with that, right? And what we've seen in our research of API data breaches from the last 10 years, it all comes down to designs and implementations. It's not about cryptography. It's not about brute force. It's all about, have we actually built our APIs in secure ways? These are the things that I want to kind of highlight to any of the listeners who are out there who are maybe, in the process of building APIs, or they're looking for what that next attack surface might be that they need to worry about for their own organization. Think about those third-party relationships. Think about the critical business functions and data that is being sent back and forth across those API wires. And then let's look at, how we can make you more secure.
Awesome, Jeremy. Earlier, you said something about a pager, so that's a perfect segue into this question. What's your favorite piece of retro technology that makes you smile?
I love Nokia simple feature phones. Full disclosure, I'm a Finn, and so for us, it's also a little bit patriotic that at one point, tiny little Finland had the #1 phone provider in the whole world. But there is so much that goes on our smartphones every day that it can be super distracting and really invade into your time and your sanity, honestly. I was just looking through a bin of them right up there on the shelf the other day, and some of my old phones, and you know what? It's just so simple. Calls and texts. And ultimately, the communication that you have with your coworkers, your friends, your family, it's a lot more impactful when it's over those types of voice conversations a lot of the time.
Yeah, especially since back then texting took a lot of finger buttons, right?
It really did. Yeah.
Jeremy, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for watching the Cyber Pro podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on new podcasts and bonus content.